Here with us to start us off, Senator Doherty.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. I'm here to present Senate Bill 60, Mental Health Training and Concussion Education, also known as Alyssa's Youth Concussion and Mental Health Protection Act, a bill that closes a critical gap in how we protect young athletes in Colorado. Alyssa was a bright, kind, and athletic 13-year-old who lived right here in Colorado in my district. Her mother, Stella, who you'll hear from later today, describes her as a natural athlete from the time she could walk, a child who loved every sport she tried. Alyssa had dreams of becoming a professional soccer player, and she worked hard every single day to make that dream a reality. Alyssa also had concussions and sports-related head injuries. As she turned 13, her family began to notice emotional shifts, changes that they couldn't quite explain. They didn't know then what we know now, that concussions can have profound effects on a young person's mental health. Alyssa died by suicide at 13 years old. Stella is here today because she wants other families to have what so many families don't, the information and the resources to recognize what they are seeing in their child and know what to do about it. That is exactly what this bill is about. The link between concussions and mental health is not widely understood, and Senate Bill 60 exists to change that, so that coaches and parents have the knowledge to recognize the signs earlier and kids can get the support they need as soon as possible. Right now, Colorado law requires coaches to recognize concussions and remove athletes from play. That's an important first step, but the law stops short. It says nothing about what happens to that young athlete's mental health after the whistle blows. The research is clear. Concussions don't just affect the body. They can trigger anxiety, depression, mood changes, and in the most serious cases have been linked to suicidal ideation. These symptoms can emerge days or even weeks after the initial injury, long after an athlete has been sent home and a coach has moved on to the next game. Senate Bill 60 addresses this in two ways. First, it requires coaches of young athletic activities at public and private middle schools, high schools, clubs, leagues, and recreation facilities to complete a biannual mental health education course covering concussions, anxiety, depression, trauma, substance abuse, suicide prevention, and a coach's direct impact on athlete well-being. Second, when a young athlete is removed from play due to a suspected concussion, the coach or organization must notify the athlete's parent or legal guardian about the potential symptoms their child may experience. Coaches are often the first trusted adults to notice when something is wrong. They see these kids every day. This bill gives them the tools to act on what they're seeing and ensures that parents are equipped to follow up at home. I want to be clear, this bill does not create new administrative burdens or require a state appropriation. I also wanted to add that after stakeholding, we have an amendment we're presenting later today, which I believe takes everyone who is concerned about some aspect of this bill into a neutral or supportive position. Thank you so much, committee members, and I'll turn it over to my co-prime.
Thank you, Senator Doherty. Senator Pelton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to start off by thanking Senator Doherty for asking me to be on this bill. It's a very important bill. I'm proud to co-sponsor 060, and I want to speak to why this legislation makes practical sense for coaches, for schools, and for communities across Colorado. We already ask youth athletic coaches to learn how to spot a concussion. That's made a real difference, but there is a piece of the puzzle we have left out. What happens to a young athlete's mental and emotional health in the aftermath of that brain injury? The research backs this up. The American Academy of Pediatrics and leading sports medicine journals have documented the link between concussions and psychological outcomes, including anxiety, depression, and behavioral changes in youth athletes. These are not rare edge cases. They are a predictable and documented consequence of brain injury that our current coach education framework does not address. Senate Bill 60 fixes that in a targeted way. Schools, clubs, leagues, and recreation facilities must require their coaches to complete a biannual mental health education course, one that can be held in conjunction with existing concussion training programs already in place and is available for free online. And if a youth athlete is removed from play due to a suspected concussion, their parent or guardian must be notified of the potential psychological and mental health symptoms that may follow. This is not a mandate that creates new bureaucracy. There's no state appropriation required, as my co-prime mentioned. The fiscal note confirms zero cost to the state. The Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment will see only minimal workload to update existing materials, and local governments and school districts will have flexibility in how they implement these requirements. States that have already moved in this direction have seen measurable results. Between 2021 and 2023, Ohio, North Carolina, and Washington expanded coach education programs to include mental health awareness and reported higher rates of early referral to school counselors and community sports. New Jersey and Massachusetts, which integrated concussion education with mental health guidance, saw improved parent notification practices and earlier symptom monitoring. Colorado has the opportunity to build on that evidence and strength, that protection we already have in place for youth athletes.
Thank you, Senator Pelton. Does the committee have any questions for the sponsors? Seeing none, we will get to the witness phase. First up on my list, I have Stella Deslingchamp. Emily Peterson, Dennis Deslingchamp, and then Wendy Buxton Andrade. Mrs. Deslingchamp, we'll start off with you. If you want to just state your name and who you represent, you'll have 3 minutes. Or
do you mind if I go first so I can introduce the family?
Oh, yeah, perfect. We will start off then with Miss Buxton Andrade.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Wendy Buxton Andrade, and I am here representing Mental Health Colorado in support of Senate Bill 26-060. Health education and prevention measures are key to making sure that young Coloradans reach adulthood in the best possible state of health. This must be our priorities as parents and families. This bill promotes greater awareness of the intersection of young people's athleticism and their mental health and well-being. This bill ensures that all coaches working with young athletes in Colorado receive mental health training and follow a consistent protocol for supporting best possible health outcomes after the young person experiences a concussion. The bill also makes a coach liable for missing signs for the poor. It does not make a coach liable for missing signs of poor health outcomes. As the old saying goes, it takes a village. Every village in the state loves its young athletes and shows up for them and celebrates them when they are winning and even when they are losing, especially when they both win and lose with grace and sportsmanship. This bill acknowledges that the eyes and understanding of the coaches are some of the most important eyes and ears of our young athletes in every community. When coaches recognize and respond to distress in timely ways, young athletes heal and thrive. Many parents and coaches do not realize that a child can have life-depleting mental health consequences and even a life-threatening mental health crisis after a concussion. I was one of those parents. Until you have to sleep outside of your child's door at night and make sure you do everything you can think of to keep them safe from themselves, you can't know what that's like, and I don't wish that upon anyone. We honor Alyssa and her family, who will be sharing their story next, because we want to make sure that every family in Colorado has the best possible opportunity to support their best outcomes after a youth athlete experiences a concussion. Alyssa's act will save the lives of our young athletes, and other Colorado families will be able to thank Alyssa and her family for well-supported, youthful young athletes, and for coaches who are consistently trained to prize their young athletes' overall well-being and see the support signs of distress and have them to often that have been missed. Early intervention is saving lives. Thank you for your yes vote on Senate Bill 26-060, Alyssa's Act. Saving children's lives has to be a top priority of the state of Colorado. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Buxton Andrade. Mr. DeLongchamp, am I pronouncing that right? DeLongchamp, if you want to just introduce yourself or tell me what you would like, Ms. Buxton Andrade. What would you like? What order? Okay, perfect. We will start off with that then, Mrs. DeLongchamp. If you want to just introduce yourself, state your name and who you represent, and you'll have 3 minutes. Start when you're ready.
Alyssa Peterson. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Stella DeLongchamp. I'm an Arvada, Colorado resident and parent of Alyssa Peterson, a young athlete who lost her life after suffering several concussions. Thank you for listening to my testimony in support of Alyssa's Act, Senate Bill 60. Alyssa was a bright, compassionate, and athletic young girl who loved the outdoors, loved sports. She skied competitively, played soccer year-round, and had dreams of one day playing at the highest level and eventually becoming a coach. She was also incredibly kind. Thank you. The kind of child that notices when another child is left out. In November 2019, we lost Alyssa to suicide. She was only 13 years old. After her death, our family began searching for answers. As I reviewed Alyssa's medical history and reflected on her entire childhood, I began to wonder whether repeated concussions from years of youth sports and outdoor activities may have affected her brain and her mental health in ways we did not understand at the time. Like many families, we didn't always recognize the signs of a concussions. Sometimes the symptoms seemed small. Sometimes Alyssa just wanted to keep playing. What I have since learned is that concussions can accumulate and affect mood, emotional regulation, and mental health, especially in young athletes whose brains are still developing. I will never know exactly what Alyssa was experiencing in those final months. Suicide is complex, and there's rarely a single cause. But what I do know is that families, coaches, and schools need better awareness of how concussions and brain injuries can impact a young person's mental health. That is why Alyssa's Act is so important. This legislation helps ensure that when a young athlete experiences a concussion, families are informed about the possible mental health impacts, and coaches receive education about how brain injuries can affect emotional well-being. My younger daughter, Emily, is here today as well. She continues to play competitive soccer, and Alyssa's story has shaped how she thinks about concussions and supporting other athletes. It takes a lot of courage for her to be here today and share her perspective as both a student athlete and Alyssa's sister. No law can bring Alyssa back. But if her story helps another family recognize the signs earlier or helps a child receive the support they need, then her life will continue to make a difference. On behalf of Alyssa, my daughter Emily, and families across Colorado, I respectfully ask for your support of Alyssa's Act, Senate Bill 60. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony, and thank you for sharing that story. And I know it's brave of you to be here, Emily, but it's also brave of you, ma'am, for sharing that story. So thank you. It matters. Emily, do you want to introduce yourself? Just state your name, and you want to give us your testimony?
My name is Emily Peterson, and good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Emily Peterson, and I'm a junior and student athlete at Ralston Valley High School in Arvada, Colorado. I also play club soccer for the Colorado Rapids Select 1 team. I'm here today to testify in support of Alyssa's Act, Senate Bill 60, for my older sister, Alyssa. Alyssa was someone I always looked up to. She loved sports, she was competitive, determined, and always pushed herself to keep going. Over time, she experienced several concussions that never were fully recognized or treated. In 2019, we lost Alyssa to suicide. I was 10 years old and she was 13. As a younger sister, that loss changed my life forever. Still today, I play soccer and understand the pressure many athletes feel to push through injuries and keep playing. But concussions are different. Sometimes the symptoms aren't as obvious, and as students may not understand what they are experiencing. That's why legislation like Alyssa's Act matters. This bill helps strengthen awareness around concussions and mental health, and it supports students as they return not just to sports but to their everyday lives. Students deserve support when they are recovering from concussions. I share Alyssa's story because I hope it helps protect other young athletes across Colorado. Thank you for listening and for considering this legislation. I urge you to support Alyssa's Act, Senate Bill 60. My stepdad, Dennis, will also share a few words about why this legislation matters to our family.
Thank you so much, Emily. Thank you for being here. Next up, Mr. DeLongchamp, if you want to just state your name and then you can give us your testimony.
Chair, members of the committee, thank you for allowing our family to be here today. My name is Dennis DeLongchamp. I'm a resident of Arvada, Colorado, and I'm here today with my wife Stella and my daughter Emily to testify in support of Alyssa's Act, Senate Bill 60. I never had a chance to meet Alyssa, but she's a part of our family every single day. Her photos are in our home. We talk about her often, and her story continues to shape our lives. When you love someone who has lost a child, you see the weight of that loss every day, but you also see the strength it takes to turn that grief into something that might help others. I've watched Stella work tirelessly to honor Alyssa's life and bring awareness to the connection between brain injuries and mental health in young athletes. And I've also watched Emily step forward in a really brave way to share her own perspective as a student athlete and Alyssa's sister. As a parent, I spend a lot of time on the sidelines watching Emily do what she loves. Emily continues to play competitive soccer, and like every parent here, I want to know that young athletes have the best protections possible. Sports give kids confidence, friendships, and opportunities that are incredibly valuable. But they also come with responsibility for all of us, parents, coaches, and schools, to make sure young athletes are protected. What we understand much better today is that concussions can affect more than just physical health. They can affect how young people feel, think, and behave. Alyssa's Act is about making sure families and coaches have better awareness of those risks so young athletes can receive the support they need. Our family cannot change what happened to Alyssa, but if her story and Emily's voice help protect other young athletes in Colorado, then her life will continue to make a difference. I urge you to support Alyssa's Act, Senate Bill 60, and thank you for the opportunity to be here today.
Thank you, Mr. DeLongchamp. Does the committee have any questions for these witnesses? Senator Cutter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have to leave to go up to present another bill, and I just wanted to tell you thank you so much for presenting today, and you know I followed your story, and my heart is with you. I do want to ask, how did you know that, how did you come to the conclusion that this was maybe concussion?
Mrs. DeLongchamp.
So I've been grieving for 6 years, and every single morning I have asked the question, why did my daughter take her life at just 13 years old? I looked into everything imaginable. I lifted every stone until every stone was uncovered. I wrote a book, and at the end of the book, I still, as a mom, couldn't get behind that my daughter just slowly suffered from mental health. I looked at her medical records. I reviewed every activity that I've ever done with my daughter, and I realized there were many undiagnosed concussions that she lived through because I didn't know how to recognize them, but for sure they were. And when I put that two together, I honestly felt like it was the first time Alyssa was right next to me. I've since poured myself into trying to understand more about concussions. I'm now the chair of the advisory board at large for a national board called Concussion and CTE Foundation. And I have just continued to move forward in that direction, and I believe this is what my daughter would want me to do.
Any further questions for these witnesses? Senator Frizzell.
I don't have a question, but I also thank you.
Thank you all for your time and for listening to us. I appreciate it.
Thank you for being here. I think this really shines a light on how important it is that these stories matter, that we're able to make policy in this state that changes people's life, and your daughter's life mattered. And so you coming here is obviously, I think, can be intimidating, can be scary, but I hope you know that you're making a difference. And I think the goal here is that other kids don't have to go through the same thing. And so thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Monty Ball. Alex Perales. Come on up. Do we have a Dr. Michael Allen? Mark? Dr. Allen, we don't have you signed up. And so when you're done here, there's just a little QR code in the back that you can sign up for me. And then do we have Sophia Junkerman? If it's all right with you, we will start on my right over here with you, Mr. Ball. If you want to state your name, who you represent, and you'll have 3 minutes to testify. Start when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Monte Ball. I am testifying in support of Senate Bill 60, and I am here representing Game Plan Life Foundation and someone who has lived through what happens when we do not understand brain injuries. My foundation works with schools and youth athletes to bring real conversations about mental health into sports. We help athletes, coaches, and families understand that the brain is the most important part of the body to protect. I played football for 20 years of my life. I was fortunate enough to play at the University of Wisconsin-Madison and for the Denver Broncos in the National Football League. During that time, I had 5 documented concussions, 3 of those leaving me unconscious. But if I'm being honest with you today, the number that keeps me up at night is not 5. It's hundreds. Hundreds of undocumented hits to the head, hits where I saw stars, hits where the world spun for a few seconds and I just lined back up because that is what all athletes are taught to do when coaches aren't aware of the serious consequences of concussions. Over time, something started to happen to me that no one understood. I had constant headaches. My personality began to change. I became distant from the people who loved me most. My relationships suffered. I struggled with emotional connection and intimacy, and I felt confused in my own mind. So my family saw it before I did. They knew something was wrong with their son, their brother, but they did not know what they were looking at. And of course, they did not know what to do. Eventually, I began drinking heavily just to quiet my mind. Alcohol became my best friend and the only way I knew how to cope with the pain, the confusion, and the person I was slowly becoming. It got so bad that I had to enter intensive mental health treatment just to get my life back. Looking back, the hardest part for me is knowing my family watched me slowly change and had no roadmap for how to help. That is why this bill matters. Because when coaches understand the mental health impact of brain injuries, they become the first people who can recognize that something deeper may be happening to the young athlete. And when we give coaches that knowledge, we are not just protecting players. We are protecting families from the fear and confusion my family lived through, and the pain and confusion Alyssa's family is living with. Thank you for your time and consideration. I urge you to vote yes for Senate Bill 60. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ball, and thank you for sharing your story. Mr. Perales, if you want to just state your name and who you represent, you'll have 3 minutes. Start when you're ready. There you go.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Alex Perales. I am a high school freshman and a student athlete here in Colorado. I've been playing soccer since I was in preschool, and it's always been a big part of my life. It's where I've learned teamwork, discipline, and how to support my friends. The truth is, a lot of kids are going through things that are hard to talk about. They might have stress from school, pressure from sports, problems at home, or just feel overwhelmed by life. And they don't always know how to ask for help, or they're afraid to say something. Last year, I had a teammate who was struggling. He would often get angry on the field and walk away from practices and games. Our coach did not know how to respond, and eventually the player quit the team. I wish our coach had recognized this as a call for help and a sign that my teammate needed support. That's why I think Senate Bill 60 is important. This bill helps make sure coaches are trained to notice when something might be wrong with one of their players and know how to get them the help they need. I know most coaches aren't doctors or therapists, but they can be the adults who notice when a kid is struggling. As athletes, we are taught to look out for each other, both on and off the field. This bill helps make sure our coaches are reminded to look out for us too. Please support Senate Bill 60. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Perales. Next up, Dr. Allen, if you want to state your name and who you represent, and you'll have 3 minutes. Start when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Senators, and thank you very much for this opportunity to speak. My name is Dr. Mark Allen, and I'm a child, adolescent, and adult psychiatrist practicing here in Denver. And I specialize in sports psychiatry and athlete mental health. I also serve as the chairman of the American Board of Sports and Performance Psychiatry. Over the course of my career, I've worked with athletes at many levels, from youth and collegiate athletes to professional organizations such as the Denver Broncos, the Los Angeles Dodgers, and the WWE. I'm here today to express my strong support for Senate Bill 2660, Alyssa's Youth Concussion Mental Health Protection Act. Youth sports are one of the most powerful environments we have for healthy development. They teach teamwork, discipline, perseverance, and resilience. For many young people, sports are also where they find identity, mentorship, and community. But we also know that young athletes face real mental health challenges, including anxiety, depression, performance pressure, and the psychological effects of injury. Coaches are the first responders in sport. They are often the first adults to notice changes in an athlete's behavior, mood, or functioning. In my clinical work, I frequently see athletes whose struggles were first noticed by a coach or teammate. For example, I've worked with young athletes who developed anxiety, mood changes, and sleep problems after a concussion. Families are often surprised because these symptoms don't always look like what they would traditionally think of as a sports injury. We increasingly understand that brain injuries do not only affect balance or memory, but they can affect mood, sleep, and emotional regulation as well. When coaches and parents understand what to look for, they're much more likely to recognize that those changes early and to help connect athletes to appropriate care. In many areas of safety, we recognize the importance of basic training. Most people are familiar with CPR or the Heimlich maneuver, and coaches are often trained in AED use. Expanding that awareness to include mental health and concussion awareness is a natural extension of protecting young athletes. In many ways, this type of education functions as mental health first aid for youth sports. Consistency and shared understanding also matter. When coaches across communities have access to similar education and resources, it helps ensure that student athletes receive thoughtful and informed support no matter where they play. Mental health is also fundamentally a safety issue. Suicide remains one of the leading causes of death among young people. Building a culture of prevention means equipping the adults closest to athletes with the awareness to recognize distress and respond appropriately. Importantly, this kind of education is brief but powerful. Just a few hours can give coaches insights and tools that benefit athletes for years to come. Early recognition of these signs and symptoms can prevent crises, reduce emergency interventions, and preserve the potential of young people. Coaches are also powerful culture setters. When they feel comfortable talking about mental health and encouraging help seeking, it reduces stigma and it strengthens entire teams and communities. Colorado is uniquely positioned to lead in this space. You have the USOPC down the road on I-25. You have multiple D1 athletic programs, successful professional teams, and organizations like the Aspen Institute's Project Play, which promotes youth sports participation nationally. This legislation presents an important step towards creating a safer, healthier, and more supportive environment for Colorado student athletes, and I beg you to please pass it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Allen. Next up, Ms. Junkerman, if you want to state your name, who you represent, you'll have 3 minutes to testify. Start when you're ready.
Hi, I'm Sophia Jonkerman, and I'm here representing Mental Health Colorado. I'm a senior in high school. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here today. My first high school track meet was supposed to be the start of my season. Instead, it was the end. I suffered a concussion, and everything changed overnight. At first, the focus was on my physical symptoms, headaches, dizziness, and neck pain. But what no one prepared me and my family for was how much it would affect my mental health. My world went from 100 miles a minute to 0. I had a hard time retaining information. I'd come home from school and couldn't recall what I learned that day. Imagine everything you knew as life got switched up in 1 second. I had to retrain not only my body, but my brain, how to get back to normal. Almost 2 months post-concussion, I had not returned to normal. I was exhibiting physical as well as mental symptoms. I went to see a concussion specialist who diagnosed me with post-concussion syndrome. If my mom didn't advocate for me, who knows how long my struggles would have gone on for. This bill matters because concussions are not only physical injuries, they are brain injuries. They can change mood, behavior, emotional stability, especially in young athletes. Yet most youth sports coaches are only trained to recognize the physical injury, not the mental health warning signs. Parents are often told their child has a concussion, but not that it can increase the risk of anxiety and depression. My coach did not recognize the symptoms of my concussion when I got it. He didn't say anything to my parents when I was exhibiting immediate symptoms afterwards. And so we didn't know I got a concussion until a couple days after, and that could change the course of my treatment. This bill would require mental health training for youth sports coaches to ensure that parents and coaches are informed of the possible mental health risks associated with concussions. That knowledge could help families recognize problems sooner and get the right help before things get worse. Concussions not only silently damage a young person's mental health. This bill provides athletes education by making mental health part of injury care, not an afterthought. Thank you for being here today, and I urge you to support Senate Bill 60. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Youngman. Thank you for sharing your story. Members, do you have any questions for this committee? Senator Bright.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Questions for Dr. Allen, right? Thank you. In your experience working in the coaching network, do you feel that coaches, I know they're difficult to find sometimes, and they're varying quality, but do you think that they will be receptive to this training?
Dr. Allen?
Absolutely. They crave knowledge. Psychoeducation and building awareness is the foundation of what we're trying to do here. Coaches really want language to understand really what's going on with the kids they chose to work with. Like, they're in it. We all have the same goal in mind. You know, we want these kids to thrive in life and development. You know, you talk to a good coach, they're not just teaching X's and O's, they're helping sort of guide this young person and their life and healthy development. This is a huge aspect of it. If you look at physical symptoms, are easy to recognize with your 2 eyes. Mental health symptoms are invisible. And so you have got to give them more tools in their toolbox to be able to recognize them.
Any further questions for these witnesses? Senator Weissman.
Thank you. No questions, just thank you all for coming in and sharing from your different perspectives. And Mr. Ball in particular, you know, I feel like there's been increasing press, particularly in the sport of football, just given sort of what it is and the impact for a lot of years, and I think there have been some really horrible stories that have come out from people who've played competitively, and then collectively we've all sort of understood too late what's been happening. Just appreciate your channeling, you know, what you've lived and bringing that to a place like this to talk about it publicly.
Yeah, I will echo that as well. Mr. Ball, thank you for using your platform as a former professional athlete. I think it's important that to see that you've started an organization advocating for something that you have personal experience with, that I think is obviously extremely important and we're hearing about today. And so thank you for that. And I mean, I have to say, go Broncos as well. Yeah. So thank you for being here. Thank you all for being here and sharing your stories today. I know that we do have some folks on the list who maybe have decided to submit written testimony, but I'm still just going to call off names if we have them online, or if this person, if they want to testify and not do written testimony. Ashley Parelis, Max Karpinski, Dr. Aaron Harrop, Ethan Andrade, Gil Lucero, Melissa McConnell, remotely, Patrick Starkey, and Catherine Daly. While that's coming up, I will just remind, if Dr. Allen, if you don't mind just signing up in the back of the room before you leave. Ms. Daly, if you want to unmute yourself, state your name and who you represent, and you will have 3 minutes to testify. Start when you're ready.
Members of the Health and Human Services community, thank you for the opportunity to present to you today. My name is Catherine Daly, representing myself and the hidden opponent, and I am here in support of the Mental Health Training and Concussion Education Bill. As a licensed professional counselor, registered dietitian, and certified eating disorder specialist who works with athletes of all ages and levels in Colorado and across the country, I ask for your consideration and support of this legislation. The bill requires the development of a framework to ensure that coaches receive training to better recognize and respond to student mental health concerns. Through my work with athletes as a therapist and dietitian, I've seen firsthand how mental health challenges are often reinforced in sport environments. We also know that concussions and other head injuries can have significant mental health impacts. Research shows that athletes who experience concussions may be at increased risk for mood changes, anxiety, and disordered eating behaviors as they cope with changes in their bodies, performance, and identity as athletes. Coaches are frequently the adults who spend the most time with student athletes outside of their families, placing them in a unique position to notice when something may be wrong. Providing them with the knowledge and tools to recognize warning signs and respond appropriately can make a meaningful difference in early intervention and support. I'd also like to share part of my own experience as a former student athlete. As a high school and Division I distance runner, anxiety, depression, eating disorders, and other mental health concerns were unfortunately common in my sport. Like many athletes, those at higher risk for mental health struggles are often highly driven and perfectionistic, and the pressures of sport can amplify challenges that may already be developing. Looking back, I often wonder what might have been different if the adults around me had been better equipped to recognize the early warning signs of mental health concerns. Coaches play an incredibly influential role in athletes' lives, and equipping them with the tools to recognize and respond to these struggles could help ensure more athletes receive support before reaching a crisis point. Colorado has an opportunity to lead in advocating for student athletes and recognizing the importance of their mental health alongside their physical well-being. Knowledge is power, and equipping coaches with training to recognize when students may be struggling benefits athletes, teams, and communities alike. This legislation helps create space for important conversations and ensures that student athletes feel seen, supported, and safe. Please support the passage of the Mental Health Training and Concussion Education Bill. Thank you for your time and thoughtful consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Daly. Does the committee have any questions for this witness? And I can't see the name. Gil Lucero, if you want to unmute yourself, state your name and who you represent, you'll have 3 minutes to testify. Start when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. Thank you for hearing my testimony today. My name is Gil Lucero, and I'm a youth athletic coach and advocate with Mental Health Colorado, testifying in support of Senate Bill 60. Over the past 25 years, coaching high school and middle school athletics, I've witnessed firsthand the evolving approach to managing concussions in student athletes. In January 2012, the Colorado High School Athletic Association implemented mandatory training for coaches focused on identifying concussions. This training has been invaluable in helping coaches recognize physical symptoms and respond appropriately. Typically at the varsity level, a certified athletic trainer is present, and the trainer will take the lead in notifying parents and outlining the course of actions for the student athlete. The trainer also collaborates with the school counselor to create accommodations, such as limiting screen time, reducing exposure to bright lights, and other necessary steps to ensure the student recovery. While the symptoms is effective for the physical management of concussions, there has been limited formal guidance for coaches on recognizing and addressing the mental health impacts of these injuries. In my role as both a teacher and coach, I am uniquely positioned to observe student athletes in the classroom and in athletic environments. I have witnessed students experience anger, frustration, and anxiety following a concussion. Many struggle to articulate the source of these feelings, which can lead to academic challenges, including difficulty focusing and declining grades. As a coach, it can be difficult to provide support for students navigating these mental health challenges while also maintaining their athletic engagement. I strongly believe that additional training on the mental health implications of concussions would empower coaches with the knowledge and strategies needed to support their athletes more effectively. With better preparation, coaches could recognize early signs of emotional distress, implement coping strategies, and work collaboratively with trainers, counselors, and families to help student athletes recover both physically and mentally, ultimately allowing them to return safely and confidently to the field of play. I urge you to vote yes on Alyssa's Act Senate Bill 60. Thank you for listening to my testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Lucero. Does the committee have any questions for these witnesses? Seeing none, really appreciate you both being here. Thank you so much. That exhausts the witness list before me. Is there anyone online or in person who wishes to testify on Senate Bill 60? Seeing none, the witness phase is closed. An amendment has been passed out to the committee. Senator Doherty?
Yes, thank you, Chair. This amendment clarifies...
Senator Doherty, can you move the amendment for me?
Sorry. Yes, I move L3 to Senate Bill 60.
We have L1 before us, Senator Doherty.
I move L1 to Senate Bill 60.
Perfect. Thank you. Tell us about Amendment L1.
Thank you. This amendment, we worked with through stakeholding to get everyone to a good position today. So we clarified we're naming Alyssa's Act in her memory. We on page 2 changes annual training to every other year. This was a CHASA request and should align with our current practice. They use the free online training program for school district coaches, and the language in this bill was modeled after this existing free online program to make it as easy and cost effective as possible. We also struck lines 16 to 18 on page 3, which was not included in the mental health training as identified. The concussion notice, we clarified that the notice of potential mental health changes that may follow a concussion is only required when the athlete is removed from play for a concussion, and it also has a notice alignment with a request from CHASA. Essentially, we also added under the liability, the section in response to organized youth sports to have liability protection for all youth sports and coaches, not just those associated with a school district program, and I would urge an aye vote.
Perfect. Thank you, Senator Doherty. Does the committee have any questions on Amendment L1? Any opposition to Amendment L1? Seeing none, Amendment L1 is adopted. Any further amendments from the sponsors? Any amendments from the committee? Seeing none, the amendment phase is closed. Who wants to wrap us up? Senator Doherty.
Thank you. And I just really want to thank the family for telling their stories. I know it's really hard, but it's really important, and I'm incredibly proud to bring Senate Bill 60. And I just wanted to bring it back to Alyssa. She loved soccer, she loved competing, she loved her teammates, and she had her whole future ahead of her. We named this bill after her because her story is exactly why this legislation matters. The connection between concussions and conditions like anxiety, depression, and suicidal ideation is well established. States like New Jersey, Massachusetts, and Ohio have already expanded coach education to include mental health awareness, and Colorado can do the same. The bill asks for a modest annual training commitment from coaches, and in return gives families the knowledge and support they need to recognize when their child is struggling. Protecting young athletes doesn't end when you leave the field. With this bill, we make sure that protection follows them home, and I ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Doherty. Senator Pelton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senate Bill 60 is a practical, low-cost update to a framework Colorado already has invested in. We have existing concussion education requirements. We have existing return-to-play protocols. This bill adds the one component that is currently missing, the mental health piece. This bill is straightforward, it is evidence-based, and it builds on work Colorado's already done. And I want to just add one more thing. Visiting with the Dayland camps, the father, he says, do you have a connection with this? I don't have a personal connection, but one of my son-in-laws is a chiropractor. He has a young son, 7 years old, very rambunctious, very athletic. He says he will never play football because of just what we're talking about today. So I think this is a great bill. I hate that it came to us in the way that it did, but maybe this will help bring some awareness and prevent some tragedy in the future. So with that, I urge a yes vote.
Thank you, Senator Pelton. Any closing remarks from the committee? Senator Carson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank all the witnesses for sharing your stories. And I hadn't focused on this bill much until we got here today, but I have to say, very few hearings that I've been to here had such a persuasive group of witnesses that we've had here today. So thank you all. You did a great job. And I will certainly be supporting the bill.
Any further closing remarks? I would like to say something, Senator Judah.
I just want to echo my colleagues' comments. It's incredibly difficult to hear testimony like this, and I hate that it took this to pass this kind of legislation. I'm so incredibly sorry for your loss, but I hope that it does give some kind of solace that her legacy will now live, for the rest of Colorado and will help so many people.
Any further remarks? I would like to say something and echo thanking the family of Alyssa for being here and sharing this story. I can't imagine how difficult it is not to only go through what your family has gone through, but to be here and sharing that story. I also want to recognize just how important this process is. We have Senator Doherty from Arvada, who was a collegiate soccer player, who, I think in talking to her about this bill, took it extremely seriously. And I think that this shines a bright light on how this process is supposed to work, how we are supposed to listen to people in our community and bring policy that makes people's lives better and protects people. And I think oftentimes when we look at politics, we can become disenfranchised pretty easily. But I think Senate Bill 60 is a prime example of how people's life stories matter, how people's advocacy matter, and really what we're supposed to be doing as elected officials in this state. This is a prime example, and I think that I hope the family knows that this bill doesn't happen without you, and that you are making more people safe in this state, and that you're protecting student athletes, and that's a big deal. And I hope that you take pride in that. And obviously, this bill is named after your daughter, and I think that's a really, really neat thing to see her legacy live on. And so, thank you, and thank you, Senator Pelton, for bringing this. Thank you, Senator Doherty, for your advocacy. I really think it's important, and I really appreciate the work that you all have put in as well with your stakeholders. We are going to be in just a brief senatorial 5 to check. We have a committee member that is presenting another bill, seeing if she wants to come back and vote on this bill as well. Senator Doherty, the proper motion would be to the committee of the whole as amended.
Yes, thank you. I move Senate Bill 60 as amended to the committee of the whole with a favorable recommendation.
That is a proper motion. Mr. Brown, please call the roll.
Senators Benavidez,
Yes.
Bright,
Aye.
Carson,
Yes.
Cutter,
Yes.
Doherty,
Yes.
Frizzell,
Enthusiastically, yes.
Judah,
Aye.
Weissman,
Yes.
Mr. Chair Malika.
Yes, congratulations. That passes unanimously. Senator Doherty.
I move for Senate Bill 60 to be added to the consent calendar.
Seeing no objection, Senate Bill 60 will be added to the consent calendar. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, committee.
Next up on the agenda, we have Senate Bill 99. We will be in a brief senatorial 5 as we wait for the sponsor to get here.